Hey everyone, how are you all doing? I have not put a video for a while in this channel because I was on vacation and it took a while for me to get back into the groove again. But we are back and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to plant my raised beds, the two raised beds that I have on my patio. Seedlings that I've been growing right from February. I can see them from here. They are hardening outside. And today I thought I'll start with the transplanting. We still have the slug issues. All the crops that I planted in April, they're nowhere to be seen. It is all eaten by slugs. It's been a little stressful to deal with them, but we'll discuss about that in another video. I'm planning to squeeze in as many crops as possible into the raised bed so that we can maximize the space that we have. I'll also share with you why I chose those crops which we are going to plant outside and my thinking or logic behind the crops that we chose. So let's go outside. These are the two raised beds I'm going to plant today. At first, I'm removing all the pots that are hanging from the raised bed and clearing out the way. The soil in these raised beds have been prepared already in the spring when I had to repair the raised beds. At that time, I emptied the whole thing out, fixed the drainage and replenished the soil with some bokashi compost. I have a separate video on that. After that, I had mulched the soil to improve the water retention of the soil. Today, we are going to plant some crops as well as sow them. Therefore, I'm removing the mulch from both these beds, otherwise the seeds cannot find its way through the mulch. At first, let us plant some herbs around the borders of the bed. When we plant herbs on the border of the bed, it is supposed to keep the pests away and protect our plants in the middle. For that, I'm using some Italian basil which I got from the supermarket. I'm planting them in all four corners of the bed. Next, we are going to plant the biggest crops of the lot. For me, they are the tomatoes in the tall raised beds and the watermelon and zucchini in the smaller raised beds. I have two varieties of tomatoes here. One is called honeymoon. It is a hybrid variety which I grew last year. The second variety is a cherry tomato called the heartbreaker. I don't know how they come up with such interesting names. Even though the soil is prepared, I'm putting some bone meal and some ground eggshells which I freshly grounded today morning. The bone meal will help in more fruit production and the calcium from the eggshells will help the crop to grow strong and the fruits will not suffer from the common problem that the tomatoes face, which is the blossom end rot. While planting the tomatoes, maybe you have heard it enough, but for those who don't know, the tomatoes can be planted deep. The hairy stems of the tomato can also grow roots. This will make them more stable in the ground. So I'm removing the lower leaves and planting them deep. The next important step would be mulching. Here I'm just mulching around the root area of the crop because we need to sow some seeds under the tomatoes. But mulching is really important so that the soil does not dry up in the heat. In the same way, I'm planting the other tomatoes. Here there are two tomatoes growing in the same pot. I had not separated them. That is the reason why both of them are small. But they should be fine when separated now. The next important step, as important as the mulching, is to give them the support as soon as they are transplanted to the ground. This is a usual mistake that I do every year. I postpone this step for later and by the time I decide on a trellis, the plant would have grown wild. So give proper trellis to the crops if they need them. I went ahead and added this metal rod right in the middle so that the main stem can grow along it and the cage will be to support a few suckers and the leaves. The two cherry tomatoes, according to the seed packet, grows up to 30 to 40 centimeter in height, so they should be just fine on the bamboo stick. In the second raised bed, I'm planting the watermelons and zucchinis as the center large crops. I'm growing watermelon for the first time in my garden and I'm planning to let them take over this raised bed and maybe grow down to the patio instead of making them grow vertical. We'll see how that turns out. I'm planting these crops in the same way as we did the tomatoes, as these are also heavy feeders. Now we have the herbs and the large plants in. Next, I'm going to sow some flower seeds. Definitely we want the bad bugs out, but we need the good guys in. The best way to attract the pollinators is by adding flowers to the group. In the tall raised bed, I'm sowing some marigold seeds, which I collected from my previous growing seasons. And in the short one, I'm sowing some chamomile seeds. The next group of crops that we are going to grow are the small plants like root crops or leafy vegetables. It is going to be summer, I know that, and these crops are cool season crops. That is the reason why we are growing them under the shade of large plants like, in this case, tomatoes and watermelons. The shade will protect them from bolting soon in the hot summer. Here I'm sowing seeds of spinach, pak choy, coriander, carrots, lettuce and radish in both these beds combined. The crops that are planted now already look a bit wilted. That means they need water. The day I chose to plant the seedlings was supposed to be a cloudy day. It was so when I started planting, but suddenly it became all sunny. I am watering them very well since it is getting really warm here. Also, we need to keep the seeds that are sown now moist. So for the next 2 weeks, I'll be hand watering this area to keep them moist, which will help in their germination. So that's it. Now we have to wait and see how this area will turn out. I know the area looks a lot empty, but hopefully it will be covered with these crops soon. I'll make a separate video in a month to share the update of this raised beds, where I'll share whether this kind of planting method worked or not. Thank you all for joining me today. I wish you a great day ahead. I'll see you in the next. Bye and take care.